Hey, baby. Ooh, ah, they're in the top three. Anyway, that was the song they play after the game at, well, St. James's Park. Awkward, weird game, isn't it? Weird. But Newcastle going to the top three on goal difference ahead of Manchester United. Same number of games played, same number of brilliant points got. Newcastle are well ahead of whatever phase it is that Eddie Howe would put those guys in. Of course, he's been fantastic. He deserves manager of the season by a very long way. And if it wasn't him, it probably would be Erik ten Hag this year. It's weird, though, because Newcastle will probably have gone into this game thinking, hey, if we can snatch a win or we can get a draw, we will take that. And by the end of the match, they were conclusively the better side. Front to back, not only just in terms of matchups, which, by the way, they won on the day anyway, but also just in terms of everything that you've kind of looking for in a Newcastle side. There was passion, there was all of the application of that passion, and on top of that, they were tactically superior to Manchester United. Now, often that has been Erik ten Hag's shtick this season when they have got good results against big sides, but Eddie Howe has also been very good at that. There have been a couple of times where he's been unfortunate. Granted, I think he's only lost like 3 games this season, 2 of which were to Liverpool in very difficult circumstances. And then outside of that, I don't remember the other. But Newcastle doing big and good things. And arguably, if you're a player that's looking to move right now, you're looking at Bruno Guimaraes with that celebration to the fans that won. And you're thinking, hey, people love to be there. They enjoy it. It looks like a fun place to play. And they're on the up. There's huge amounts of cash. I could get huge wages. I could live in a little enclave just outside Newcastle or just next to Newcastle or whatever it is, and things would be fantastic. Now, let me just praise a couple of the guys on this side who probably won't get the praise or will get the praise, but people like me will go, hey, let me be a little bit avant-garde here, guys. Let me talk about, let me actually talk first of all about the fact that they had Nick Pope back. I do think having Nick Pope back makes a huge difference to this side. And in the previous game against Manchester United, obviously in the FA Cup final, they didn't have him. Oh, it's so frustrating because you kind of get the feeling that the whole back line just feels a bit more positive and a bit more confident, obviously, with Nick Pope there. So they push a little bit further up. They know he can cover. Obviously, they know he's capable of covering. But you get what I'm saying. And then they also know that if they've got a good guy behind them like Nick Pope, then they're fantastic. I thought Dan Burn was just incredible against Anthony. Loads of people post-game saying Anthony is terrible. I think Anthony is yet to reach his upper ceiling in England. But at the same time, Dan Burn just absolutely pocketed him for so much of the game. And then he was so confident, he's straightforward a couple of times. I've got to say, I think Kieran Trippier, he's the side they obviously focus on because they go Kieran Trippier and then weirdly Jacob Murphy today had an absolutely fantastic game. Like the kid was actually doing things where I was looking at him like, sorry, you're playing in the half space here. You're just running into space against Manchester United. Like they actually had McTominay and Sabitzer in this one, not Casemiro. That was probably the big reason why he could run into that half space, looking so confident in that area. And then obviously Isaac and I thought Isaac looked really fantastic It wasn't him who looked really fantastic. It was him he was looking sharp, but not fantastic, is what I mean to say. Alexander Isak, good player, didn't quite have the game he wanted to have. You could see he was trying to push for it. You could see there was the element of want to be in there, but he just didn't have that edge today. You could see that Varane and Martinez were just sort of all over him whenever he got the ball. They were quite easily winning it back as well, to be honest. And there were times where his head sort of went down and you just think, hey, you're a young kid, you'll get through it. And then on the far side, there is that big heat map, which is just constantly Alan Saint-Maximin just cutting inside in that half space. And these guys like those narrow forwards, you just love to see it. Like, didn't think he was fantastic today, if I'm honest. I still think that Newcastle should sell him. I still think they should cash in. I still think that there is someone with a better upper ceiling there that probably won't limit Newcastle as much. And actually, they fix the right side, fix the left, and you'll be just as dangerous, if not even more dangerous. They just need someone to balance it out. And I'm not saying Jacob Murphy's there to balance it out against Alan Saint-Maximin. I'm just saying, I think that there is probably just someone who fits Eddie Howe's system slightly better. My concern is whether Eddie Howe can identify those players. Probably can. Maybe it won't be him identifying them like it was at Bournemouth anymore. But Eddie Howe deserves credit for the way he laid his side out. Bruno Guimaraes, absolutely fantastic. He is still doing a lot in that midfield, but he was allowed to do a lot in that midfield. Bruno didn't particularly have a good game today. Even if I'm just looking at the average positions, I'm looking at Bruno and I'm thinking, oh, mate, you were all over the place. Like, you weren't doing what you needed to do, basically. And then in the middle, Sabitzer, do you really want to have him to be the guy you rely on? He was not enforcing enough. He wasn't pushing himself on the game enough today. And then finally, Scott McTominay. I mean, McTominay's a decent player, and I think, I enjoy his surging runs every now and again, but how am I still watching Scott McTominay at Manchester United? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then ahead of that, I was definitely disappointed with the fact that Wout Weghorst had a pretty poor game in this one. I actually do think that Anthony was pocketed by Dan Burn, even though, it's probably a tactical intricacy that I'm missing there. And then Rashford, again, actually quite a quiet game today. Probably because he was playing against someone like Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier, of course, fantastic. On the opposite side of that, I actually enjoyed when they bought, I really enjoy watching, what's his name at this point? Number 8 for them, Anthony Gordon. I really enjoy Anthony Gordon. Put him on this side. I think Anthony Gordon's a great player. I think he's exciting. He surges forward. He definitely has a little bit more than Jacob Murphy in his locker, but, he's still young. He's still learning. He looks like Anthony Gordon Strachan at this age. It's been a hard paper round, put it that way. But he's fantastic. And I can see why they got him. I just think they need someone to balance it out on the other side. Now, they have a simple run in at Newcastle. Maybe this was a game they got up for. Maybe we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, because actually the real reality coming out of this is Manchester United have got a quality team that have a lot of players going away for the international break. Eric Ten Hag's probably run these guys into the ground at this point. They're probably very much overperforming. And when a team scores against them, their confidence is probably a lot more shot than maybe a Newcastle is. Newcastle have been through their blip this season. They pulled themselves out of a January dip and got themselves back to 3rd in the Premier League. This team, by being on paper, by rights of that paper, have no right to be in the top 3 in the Premier League. There are plenty of sides who have been better than them or have a better paper team than them, but they've been better than those sides. You know what? It kind of reminds me of that Leicester team. Leicester were never able really to capitalise. They lost their manager today and Brendan Rodgers, and despite the fact they won an FA Cup and there were good moments, really they found their upper ceiling. Newcastle, their ceiling is just going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. To be a Newcastle fan right now must be fantastic, because the hope, the ideas that you must have as to where your team can go is amazing on the pitch. We know where else they're going. We know where they're doing their preseasons. But the point is, Newcastle put in it wasn't just hearty. They controlled the game against Manchester United. In the midfield, Manchester United did not challenge Newcastle today. That's the disappointing element for me. I'm disappointed to see that Newcastle were unchallenged by Manchester United away from home. And we have to look at Manchester United's results. We have to look at what they've done against the big teams. Sure, they've had some masterminded performances by Eric Ten Hag. I really think that the game against Liverpool that they won 2-1 doesn't really count. Liverpool were a nothing in that match. Then they've got the Arsenal game. They won that one 3-1. Probably an anomaly in terms of all those. It was Arteta pretty much let them get away with it. Man City, they got killed 6-3. You go further down, the last Newcastle game was a 0-0. The Tottenham game, they did win 2-0, but even then, you've got a Conte factor. There have been some results which have shown that Eric Ten Hag is moving this team in the right direction. And I think broadly, the graph goes that way, right? I think it is going up and up and up. I've got to say, though, I think they've beat some very mid-level teams. And there have been other sides where you sort of go, okay, what's really going on here? Like, great result against Barcelona, sure. And, good luck to you in the Europa League. But do you know what I'm saying? Some masterminded moments, but also some moments where it's not about Eric Ten Hag. It's about the poor squad that they have sometimes. It's about the poor level of motivation that some of those players still exhibit from last season, still exhibit some of those less than desirable, shall we say, personality traits, which in games like this, you need to pull yourself through. And Newcastle have that mental grit. They have that mental aptitude to be able to pull themselves through. Newcastle, sure, they've lost some really, sort of pivotal games this season, but they've made the rest of those results not mean that those pivotal games were so important. Of course, Manchester United won against Manchester City. They went on then to lose against Arsenal. And then obviously they had the Liverpool result recently. There's, as much as you say they beat Leicester 3-0, Leeds 2-0, Crystal Palace 2-1, they beat Bournemouth, Wolves, Nottingham Forest. Fulham was the last serious team where you're sort of like, you know what? Yeah, that was good alongside your Man City result. Sure, we talk about Barcelona, but it's not necessarily a long-term criticism. I'm just saying this is the level of Manchester United. Maybe finishing fourth this season is what they want. Erik ten Hag talked about them pushing on. This is the new season now that, put the past behind you. We need to push on. This was a poor performance today from Manchester United, and Newcastle capitalised. Sure, they made elements of Manchester United look poor, but they targeted those specific areas. Eddie Howe has briefed each of these people to specifically target the areas that Manchester United are weak. And Erik ten Hag managed, in the end, Erik ten Hag put two of his main central defenders off the field. And who went on to win the game? Newcastle. Should have been 1-1. Should have been 1-1 if they'd have wanted anything near a result in this game, but it wasn't. Newcastle went forward and they made it count. And they made the bigger chances. Manchester United had a couple of half chances, put themselves in a couple of semi-decent places, but Manchester United were poor. And it was another poor performance. The heads have dipped more recently. So I think Erik ten Hag probably doesn't owe anyone an explanation. We know why this has happened. We know that there's going to be more turnover in the squad. We know Erik ten Hag's going to take this team forward. But we also see Eddie Howe, with probably equivalent to minimal investment compared to Manchester United, has taken this side forward. Eddie Howe's shown that ceiling of his just keeps rising and rising and rising. And let's face it, it's partly because it's at Newcastle United. That stadium is electric. That atmosphere is awesome. The feedback from the fans, the relationship between the fans and the players, when Dan Burn is like pumping his arm and the fans are getting behind him, that's the kind of thing you want to see. Just from winning a throw-in or a corner, that's the thing you want to see out there. Newcastle have got a pretty simple run-in, right? I don't know if Manchester United catch them in this. Manchester United have still got to come. Chelsea, Tottenham, Villa. Those are the three difficult games. I think Newcastle, broadly, as you need to go to Newcastle, pick out some of their results. Look at this. Right. Yeah. Okay. Newcastle to come. Difficult teams in terms of difficult sides. They've got Arsenal and Chelsea and Tottenham. But I can see them beating Villa, Tottenham. I can see them beating Chelsea. I think Newcastle finish in the top four this season. Comfortably as well. Possibly even third. Because Tottenham ain't catching them, baby. You ain't catching them. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I did think it was a fantastic game. Intricate moments where Bruno Guimaraes does that beautiful little nutmeg. He's so confident in possession, so deep. It gives the other two quite functional piano carriers a good role to play, and it gives them like some form of, hey, we can dial into this. Like if we just get the ball to him, he plays it out. There's a lot of out balls to the wings, which stretched Manchester United. It went a lot to Jacob Murphy. It went a lot to Kieran Trippier. It went a lot out on the wing there to Alan St-Maximin. It bypassed that weak passing midfield quite a lot because they went to Bruno, out. Or they went to the centre-back, out. It works. It bypassed Manchester United a lot. Weirdly, a lot of that is what Liverpool did as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is Eddie Howe masterminding something here? Is Eddie Howe riding a wave? What is he doing right now? Is he doing something that he can continue? Is this repeatable season after season after season? Because the talented players are in the squad now are respecting Eddie Howe. Isak, Gordon, Guimaraes, they're all giving them results. They all love playing in this side. They're invested in the local area. Ooh, it's exciting. But I want to know what you guys think. I think Newcastle United finish above Manchester United this season. Sue me. See you guys later. Much love. Bye.